Hey everybody, it's Kate the West Coast Paper Crafter. You are joining me live in my craft room in East Souk, Vancouver Island, Canada. It is Wednesday, November 6th, and tonight I am going to show you a little tutorial on how to decorate up one of Stampin' Up's pre-made book treat boxes. If you don't have a book treat box that's already pre-made, the first thing we're going to do is make one from scratch. So that is what all this paper is for. So if you're crafting along, you're going to need your paper trimmer because we're going to be doing a little bit of scoring and cutting. So bring your scissors as well. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to flip the camera around. All right, you can see my workspace. And so this is the project that I'm going to recreate tonight. I will be using the pre-made book treat boxes from Stampin' Up. They're all ready to go, but before we get into that, I'm just going to show you how you can make your own if you don't have one. So to start out, I have got a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 by 6 3/4. Just going to slightly adjust my camera. Give me 1 second here. So you can see a little bit more of what I'm doing. Okay, so on the long side, so the 6 3/4 side, we are going to score our cardstock at 1 inch and 2 inches. Did I do one or did I do it? Yes, I did one. Oh my goodness, it's going to be one of those nights already. So I've scored it at 1. Now I'm scoring it at 2. And then I'm going to score it at 4 3/4. And then 5 3/4. All right, so my laptop is not behaving. All right, here we go. So here's our cardstock. I've scored it at 1, at 2, 4 3/4, and 5 3/4. Now flip it around to your short side. So this is the 5.5 side, and we are just going to score it at 1, and 4.5. All right, so 2 score lines on the short side at 1 and 4.5. Now we've got another piece of cardstock. This is 4 by 7, and on the 7-inch side, we're going to score it at 3, and then score it at 4. All right, so we've scored it at 3, and we scored it at 4. All right, there's that piece. And then I've got one more little piece. This is 4 inches by 1 inch, and we're going to score this at 1. Oops, I almost scored that on the diagonal. And then we're going to score it again at 2. All right, now I'm going to get my paper trimmer out of my way. And what we need to do is cut this piece of cardstock, the 5.5 by 6 3/4, so it looks like this. So I've gone ahead and I'll take a picture of this and I'll put it in the comments after this live. So this is my template. So I've got it, it's the same size, and wherever there's a solid black line, that's a score line that I'm not going to cut, and where you see the dotted lines, that's going to be a cut. So I'm going to pay attention because I don't want to mess this up. Otherwise, this will be a really fast live. So I'm just going to start. I've got a score line on the 1 inch mark here. I am going to cut that right up to the second score line. And then I cut just slightly to the right of the score line because I want to have a little bit of space. You can see with these treat boxes, they've got some space in between those tabs. So I'm going to recreate that a little bit. And I'm going to cut now just a titch on the left side of that score line. And I'm cutting up to the second score line. And once I get to there, I'm just going to snip that little piece of cardstock out of the way. So it looks like this. So this, I'm cutting the tab just at the first score line. All right, so now it looks like this. It seems complicated, but if you use a template like I've got, it's kind of handy. So now I'm going to go to the other side. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just cutting slightly off the score line, and again on the other side, just because I want a little bit of space. And then I am going to cut that tab off at the first score line. So here is one side of our box. Flip it around, and we will repeat that process. So I'm cutting up to the second score line, just a little bit to the right of my score line instead of cutting right on it, and then cutting up again, just a little bit to the left. Oops. Then I'm going to snip that. And same thing on the other side. And snip again. So the hard part is done. So I'm cutting the tabs just like we did on the other side. And now your cardstock's going to look like this. Okay. So where did I put? Thought I had my tear and tape out, but I don't, so I will use some Stampin' Seal when we put that together, but I won't worry about that quite yet. Actually, yes, I will. So to build this, the pre-made treat box, it's got some tear and tape on these two edges. So even though I have so much tear and tape, I have no idea what I did with my roll. So that's okay. I'm just going to use, you can use Tombow, you can use Stampin' Seal. I'm going to use Stampin' Seal. And I'm just going to put a little bit of tape right on the edge. What I should have done is folded in on the score lines and burnish that a little bit, but I forgot. It's not the end of the world. So I'll just do that on this side before I add any tape. Okay, so this is super easy. What you're going to do is fold in the corners where you don't have the Stampin' Seal. I need a little bit more, a little weak. Now, there we go. So fold in, tuck in those tabs, and now fold this over your tabs, and then the piece that's got the adhesive on it just folds right over and sticks everything together. Super easy. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm adding some of my Stampin' Seal simply because I've misplaced my tear and tape. I would prefer tear and tape, but this will do. So I've got my two tabs. I'm folding them in, bringing up this side. Might be hard to see with this dark colored cardstock, so my bad. And then folding over my tabs. And there you go, just like this. Now to create the book fold, we're just going to fold on our score lines. Now again, those were scored at 3 and 4. And that's just going to fold right over your box. So if you have a corner rounder, then you might want to just round off your edges. I do happen to have, I don't even know where I got this corner rounder. I've had it in my stash for 20 years. I have no idea where it came from, but it's handy. It does a really neat little corner. If you don't have one, it still looks nice. So before I glue my book cover onto my box, I'm also going to add my tab. So I'm just going to fold on my score lines, and on the 1 inch score line, in between the 1 inch score line and the edge, the left edge of the cardstock, I'm going to glue that to the front of this cardstock, or to the inside, it depends. So when this is finished, I will cover it with some designer series paper. So I'm going to go ahead and just glue this right to the front of the book fold, because it will get covered. Not today, but I will do it. All right, so I've got that on, and if you want, you can also round, if you've got a corner rounder, you can round the edges of the tab. Totally up to you. Oops. And then I'm just going to add some glue to the bottom of this box. Hey Sherry, thanks for tuning in. Sherry, do you have these pre-made book treat boxes, or are you going to make one from scratch? So I've got glue on here. This is one thing I like about if you're making the box yourself, I prefer Tombow when I put it down on my book cover. So this is the back of my book cover where this, no wait, let me think about that. Oh, I was wrong. So where I've glued the tab down, that's actually going to be the back of my book cover. So I'm going to want to just make sure that's at the bottom. I've got my Tombow. I'm going to line this up to the score line, just a tiny bit to the right of the score line. And let that glue set. And there you have it. There is your handmade book treat box. Super easy. It just takes a minute to cut it all together. So I forgot to mention, I was going to tell you guys that on my last live, last Monday, I was doing some scoring, and I said I removed my scoring blade. And then I went ahead and scored some paper. What I actually meant to say was I removed my cutting blade. Lately, I am using the wrong words for everything. Anyway, that's what's happening to me. All right, Sherry, they are on the way. I hope you get them by the weekend too. Oh, thanks, Kimberly. Thanks for tuning in live tonight, guys, on my unusual night to tune in. But on Monday, we had a really wicked windstorm, and there was trees down everywhere and power lines down. And my son and I ended up not being able to get home until later on Monday evening, because both access points to our house were blocked with fallen trees and downed power lines. So we've got 2 ways to get home, and then we had none, but it's fine. We got home. All right, so a bunch of pieces. Just going to move my handmade box out of the way. And actually, I want to just go ahead and build these pre-made boxes. So it's totally the same way as the handmade treat boxes. I'm just going to bend in all my corners. And Stampin' Up! Has just made this easy. So I'm going to remove the tear and tape. I'm going to fold these tabs in, line up the edge of the box, and then I'll fold that lip right over. It is just super easy. Same thing on the other side. All right, I'm missing comments. Sorry, guys. I'm so focused on this box. All right, if I miss your comments, I don't mean to. I will go back, I'll read everything, and I will reply. So hopefully I don't miss anybody, but hello, Robin from Cranbrook. Thanks for tuning in. And Kate from Fredericksburg. I hope I don't miss anybody. Anyway, bottom of the Stampin' Up! Pre-made treat box, easy peasy, a little bit easier than if you hand make it. Now I'm going to put that aside. There's some things I want to do. So I've got some patterned paper. This is from the Snowy Scenes Designer Series paper pack. I've cut this to 4 by 7. And originally I actually scored it to match these score lines on the bookfold, but you don't have to do that. So I'm going to skip that step. If you want to score it, you're just going to score it just like we did with the handmade treat box. You'll score your piece of designer series paper on the long side at 3 and 4. I don't think you'll have to. It just depends. What am I doing? Actually, before I do that, I'm going to add my tab. So I've cut a piece of real red. This is, where is this? I think it's 2 3/4 by 1. Yes, 2 3/4 by 1. So I'm just going to add some glue to this tab. I'm going to try not to be too heavy because I don't want it to leach. And then I'm going to add my cardstock right to the edge where it's going to fold over. You could, if you had a little bit bigger piece, if you wanted to, you could add it so it's going to be covered by your designer series paper, but I didn't want any bumps. So if you line it up, I've got it lined up just so. My edges should be flush with the tab, and once that glue is set, I'm just going to take my paper trimmers and I'm going to trim the extra paper. And all I'm going to do is just follow along the line of that curve of the tab. All right, so like so. I've got a little bit of glue that leached out. That is okay because I'm going to cover that. Now, designer series paper, I'm just adding glue. You can use Stampin' Seal if you prefer, or tear and tape, whatever you like. All right, so I've added my glue, and now I'm just lining this up, and I've cut it just so that it should be flush to the edges. Sometimes I cut just the tiniest bit off and I don't even realize it, which I've done with this paper, but I don't think anybody's even going to notice. Hey Marina, you are in Ontario. Oh, well, thanks for tuning in. I'm more than happy to show you how to make the boxes. We don't all buy the boxes, or sometimes when you want to buy these pre-made boxes, they're sold out, and they're not actually hard to make. So it was just really handy that I had one I could use and figure out the measurements and all the score lines. All right, so all I'm doing is just trimming the edges so they're rounded. Now you're just going to fold in on those score lines. And there's a score line on the tab too. So when it's finished, it will look like that. Now this is totally optional. I've taken a piece of real red cardstock, and I'm going to apologize because I do not typically post anything 1/16 for measurements or 16ths of any sort of measurement, but this one I did. So if you saw the measurement post, you will see that I did have this piece which was cut to 2 9/16 and 3 7/16. Yeah, I know that sounds ugly, but all you really need to know is that the long side is 3 1/2 back a titch. That's how I cut it. I literally lined it up to 3 1/2 because the bottom of this box is 3 1/2 by 3 1/2 by 2 3/4. So I went 3 1/2 and I went back by 1/16. And then same thing, the 2 3/4, I just went to 2 3/4 and I pulled my cardstock back by 1/16, just so it's going to fit on the inside of the box. So that is why I had those 16th measurements. I normally wouldn't do that. I don't like to cut in 16ths, but it needs to be just a smidge smaller so you can fit it in there. So I'm just going to add a little bit of Tombow right to the inside. And then I'm going to pop in my real red cardstock. It's still a tight fit, even 1/16 smaller. It's a tight fit. So if you have a bone folder, which I have actually, it's really handy to get in there and then you can just get those corners pushed down. And this, again, it's optional if you want to add anything to the inside of the card, whether it's pattern paper or solid color, totally up to you. All right, so I also went ahead and, what did I do? Oh goodness, I messed up. That's fine. So I cut strips to glue along the side of the box. So where did I wrote my measurements down for this. Where did I put that? I'm just gonna have to remeasure it. And I had where did I put it? Okay. All right, let's see. So for the long side of the box, this is, oh, I know this. This is 3.5 by 1 inch, right? 3.5 by 1 inch. And then this side is going to be 2 3/4 by 1 inch. So I just need to cut one extra piece because I accidentally used a longer strip. So I need to cut my 3.5. Oh goodness. I forgot I took my cutting blade out because I was afraid I was going to cut instead of score, because I do that. I think I'm going to score and then I use the wrong blade. All right, so I'm just quickly cutting one extra piece of cardstock because I accidentally used the wrong size for my tab. Okay, so this one, 3.5 by 1. I'm just going to add glue right to the side of that box and glue it down. Oh, hey Karen, thanks for tuning in. Oh, yeah, surprise. Part of it's a box, right? But if you cut out the green pieces, I'm not sure, did you see the measurement post, Karen, with the green cardstock? That is the measurements to make the book fold treat box. So you might have to hit replay. It's really easy once you get it all cut out. It's a little tedious, but I think it's just as cute. So this, I was thinking, if you took, this would look really cute too with pattern paper on the side. And especially if you could do it in one continuous piece so you didn't have these little edges. So maybe for my next box, I'll try to do one continuous piece with designer series paper. I think that would look really nice. All right, edges of the box are on. Now, this box has got handy tear and tape, but honestly, I prefer the Tombow because I like to have a little bit of wiggle room. When you've got the tear and tape, you have to be, you have to be ready to commit before you stick this box down because you got one chance, right? So again, I am just going to put this box almost on the score line. It is going to be just a smidge to the right of that score line. You're going to want to stand up and get your head over your box so you can kind of gauge that it's going to be placed evenly at the top and the bottom as well as you can. It's hard to do. All right, there we go. I got it down. And that is that. So of course, we need to decorate this a little bit. So I am just going to do a little sentiment just for you on one of the Spotlight on Nature circle die cuts. And then I'll add that to another die cut in Real Red. And I'll glue that onto the tab. And then you could go crazy. You could add ribbon or embellishments, whatever you want to do. So I went out for a dog walk today on my break. On Wednesdays, I get to work from home. I'm so lucky that I get the privilege of a work from home day. It's so nice to wake up just before work and not have to worry about getting ready to go. I can literally work in my pajamas if I wanted to. I love it. Anyway, so on my work from home days, I'm just going to add some glue to the edge of this tab. so I can glue on my circle dies. So on my break, when I work from home, I like to take my dog out for a walk. And one of my passions in life is foraging for mushrooms. I just got into it a few years ago and I'm addicted to it. So we've lucked out. We found a whole bunch of new chanterelles. I don't know if any of you are mushroom lovers, but the chanterelles on Vancouver Island this year have been crazy. Like, this is just a walk from my backyard, and I've never found chanterelles before, but we got rain at the end of August, and the mushrooms, they're just on fire. So anyway, I felt pretty lucky about that. So we found a bunch of chanterelles and some belly button hedgehog mushrooms. And my dog gets really bored when I stop for mushroom picking. It's just kind of funny, actually. He's got zero patience. So the tab of your book fold box from Stampin' Up! Does have tear and tape, so you can secure it. But I don't want to stick it together until somebody has to tear it open. So what I've done is I've just got these little Velcro dots from my local craft store in Canada. I don't know if you have these in the States, but in Canada, we have craft stores called Michael's, and I found these at Michael's. So I'm just going to put 2 down, and then, which ones do I have? I just got to make sure I've got the sticky ones. So then I take these Velcro dots and I actually stick them together. So they're adhesive, so the glue side is up. I put the matching pair together, glue side up, and then this allows me to get perfect placement. So then I just fold that down. I'm going to give it a little bit of pressure so that Velcro dot is going to stick. And then I just gently tear it up and make sure it's working. One is not quite. There we go. All right, you know why? It's because I stuck this one on the tear and tape, and it doesn't want to stick to that shiny edge. But I like the Velcro dots because then it allows whoever you gift this to, they can just keep opening it and using it. And I like that because if I got one of these gifted to me, I would not want to rip it apart. I would want to keep it and put little treats in it. Oh, sure, you can get the Velcro sticky dots at your dollar store. Handy. All right, so I am going to use some of these peppermint swirly things. I don't know what they're actually called. They're just called Real Red and White Adhesive Back Peppermints. I'm going to use this. And you know what? Just one. So somewhere in my stash, underneath all my crap, I grabbed some of these little dairy milks because these fit in here. You can stuff 3 in here, just like that. And I really like these little dairy milk chocolate bars. They're the perfect size. So you could stick whatever you want in there. I'm going to stick dairy milk in there. Okay, I think that's it. That didn't take as long as I thought it would, so that's good. I'm going to flip the camera around. There we go. All right, so just a couple things to tell you guys about. Coming soon is the Reindeer Fun free online class. I can't remember if I named it Reindeer Fun or Reindeer Days, but it will be with the Reindeer Days suite. So I'll be using all the things from that suite to make the projects. But if you don't have that stamp set or papers, that's okay. You can use whatever you have in your stash and your projects are going to turn out just as adorable. I'm absolutely sure of it. So that is coming. Whoops, my camera's shaking. Hopefully I will have that ready by the weekend, at least for sure. For those of you waiting for the kits, I'll have that in the mail. So that is my plan for the weekend. I have an in-person class coming November 17th. It filled up really quickly. I barely even advertised it. So if you are local to me and you're and you'd like to come, just send me a message and hopefully I'll have a spot left for you. And one more thing. Oh yes, Tanya, the Canadian Stamper, and we will be doing another collaboration. This one is going to be a online class only. We are calling it Magical Fun Folds. So it's going to be different. There are no card kits. So what you get are video tutorials for 4 different fun folds, and they're not easy fun folds. They're going to be a little more complicated than what you would normally expect to see, at least from me, because I don't do hard fun folds except for this. This one I will do. So there'll be 4 different types of fun folds. That'll be a little bit more challenging than what you would normally expect from if you watch me. And yes, so you would get video instructions to do that, as well as a PDF tutorial for the cards. So that is yours to keep forever, so you can keep creating with those fun fold styles if you like them. And then also you get a free gift from us, but I'm not telling you what it is. And it is not just open to Canadians. We decided to make this an online video tutorial only, where there's no card kits being shipped out, so we could extend it to all of our friends. It doesn't have to be just Canadian, so that's a little bit different, but you still get the free gift. We will mail that out to you. I think that's it. So, well, hey, Nikki, thanks for tuning in. I hope I answered everybody's questions. Yes, Sherry, it is. Specifically, we're doing it specifically not as our normal type of class, just video tutorials and a PDF instructional document as well, just so everybody has the option to do that. So it's a PayPal. That's how you pay for that class. And I'll get into that more. It's not designed yet, but we are promising people that it will be ready to go by November 23rd. So what you do need to do though is have your own supplies. You will have to cut your paper and do all the scoring, use whatever stamp sets and things that you have at home, which I'm very, very sure we all have more than enough in our stash. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you like the treat box and learning how to make one from scratch if you haven't bought the pre-made ones. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in. I will be back next Monday at my usual time with something completely different. Have a good night, everybody, and thanks so much for tuning in. Oh, if you are watching on replay, either on Facebook or YouTube, please say hello. Tell me where you're from. If you are watching on Facebook, I will post this template as a photo in the comments, so if you decide to make your own, you can follow along with that. And I'll also repost the measurements for our project tonight in the comments of the Facebook video. If you're on YouTube, you will find the measurements in the description of the video, but I'm not sure if I can add a photo, so you might just want to take a screenshot. All right. Thanks, everybody, and have a really good night.